I have got to I need to spend a little bit of time savoring this moment. Well, for one thing, I'm about to introduce you to George Gann, who's just, he's one of the most special people in my life. And George and we've had a relationship. Actually, we've known each other. I think we've known each other for just for a year, but it's been 7 lifetimes, George. So we've been speaking. Well, let me just say, George, represent Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and he's served on the. Let me do you justice over here before I frame this up. He served on the EO Global Board between 2010 2013, and is recognized in the EO community as being the architect of ideas, main architect of ideas, with Warren Rustand, and I know you're going to give due credit to Warren, in shepherding major innovations with entrepreneurs organizations, which I understand is like 14,000, you're 14,000 plus members globally. It's a global organization. And you'll hear how, as part of the architect of ideas, George actually created the various leadership academies. And I'll let you mention that. But I was blessed to actually speak at one of those regional leadership academies. In fact, it was the last live program I did before COVID hit. It was the last program that I did. And we were in Hawaii with the Regional Leadership Academy, the West Coast region, and it was magical. It was like absolute magical experience. And George and Warren and so many other members were there, and it was, Chuck Bender and Michelle Kripolini, leaders. It was just the most glorious time. And then since then, we've actually, Chip Conley speaks about being in a mentor relationship. We've been in a mentor relationship where I've learned so much, I've interned so much. And then there are times I think George would fairly say, we've been a mentor to each other and we've learned. So it's that recycling relationship. And we've had this glorious relationship, this blossoming of love and care for each other over these months since we did that regional. And I consider every moment with you a treasured moment, and especially this one. So, as all of you know by now, I've been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And so every moment counts. And, and I was thinking, well, how am I going to announce this? How are we going to announce this in the EO community? Because it's, we've got this WhatsApp group going, and I feel I was going to, it's not the place that we just drop a bomb in there and say, because I love the community, but I especially love because, the West Regional Academy, right. We've grown closer because I did a number of sessions afterwards, and they've been very tender. And I've spent time with, these extraordinary entrepreneurs. I've done, I've actually I've gone to some local events where I've sat in living rooms and we've had just these, it's that level of intimacy. And so I know that I believe the shout out to West Coast Regional Leadership Academy, because I know that you're going to see this video. And I just want you to know how much I love and appreciate each and every one of you. So we're getting on a WhatsApp call in the middle of the night. We've been pinging each other like 2 a.m. It was just, and then finally at 5 a.m. we connected and we started having this extraordinary conversation. And then it dawned on me, oh, this is a moment of synchronicity. We need to be doing this on Zoom right now. And it was like, it's like be on guard for when synchronous moments, because then I had to go to scramble and I went to shave and we both kind of got ourselves into, I see you wearing a new shirt and here we are right now in this moment, 10 minutes later, ready for this moment of synchronicity that I considered, a blessing from the grace of the divine, however you want to express that. So George, I just want to share, I would love you to share more. First of all, whatever you call to share about our relationship. I feel so blessed. And then I want to shine that, but I want to, from there, I really want to shine a light on you to shine a light on EO and really kind of the standing and the importance and the vitality that the organization brings to the world. And also just so thread wherever you want to go from here. So this is the moment of shining a light on EO in this channel. So please do this justice.
Well, Daniel, firstly is that when I call you this morning, the intent wasn't this, and I just wanted to call you to tell you how much I love you, and how much we as a community in EO is with you. My thoughts are with you, and I wanted you to know that we are so blessed to have you in association with EO. And as I called to talk about you, you turned the light on me and wanted me to have this opportunity to talk about EO. And I just wanted to really reflect on that and say, you're always about the other person and about how you touch the life of others. So I'm very, very touched by your way, that your outlook of life and how you go about with the sole purpose of sharing what you know, and in that process, changing lives and helping other people to unlock whatever challenges that they had. Well, we met in Hawaii in February, and when we run the Regional Leadership Academy, the EO US West Leadership Academy. And I fondly remember walking around. I was there early and bumped into you on the beach, and you just look at me and say, "Are you George Gunn?" And that's how we started our conversation. We cannot be more different, Daniel. We come from different corners of the world. We have very different background, different culture, different race, different everything. But yet, we have that moment of connection on the beach of Hawaii. And I find that, it goes to show that if we discover the human connection, irrespective of where we come from and our background, in that moment, we know that we are connected in certain ways that is more powerful than the subject matter. Sometimes I think it's transcendence, the power beyond our understanding. And since then, I have the privilege and the honor of learning from you. We are fortunate to have continued with our conversation from Hawaii. We have been on a call every 4 to 6 weeks since February. Our last call was on the 10th of November, and we are scheduled to call again on the 6th of January. So I just wanted to let you know how pleased I am and how honored I feel to be your friend, to be able to connect with you, such an amazing, beautiful human being at such a personal level. And even at this moment when others would be thinking about themselves and what they want, all you ever talked about since we spoke again this morning was how you want to share your moments now with the rest of the world, and how you want to continue to tell the story so that the world will continue to benefit from your teaching and your learning. And I just wanted to appreciate you, thank you, and tell you how much we all love you. So Daniel, on behalf of all your friends in EO and our title community of the group of 28 of us in Hawaii, We are all 100%. You're in our thoughts, you're in our prayers, and we want to give you the most positive energy to continue on this journey, to fight the biggest battle.
Thank you. I really appreciate you, George. And now back to what I'm learning through this whole process is that my legacy isn't my legacy. And what I mean by that is my legacy is to just shine a light. While I talk about conscious leadership and conscious culture, and I talk about, what does it mean to elevate humanity? I mean, that's the mission statement of conscious capitalism. What does it mean to elevate humanity? It's actually not about me. It's about me looking at all the other organizations that are elevating humanity. So all I need to do with this blessed opportunity that I have is just to look for, well, where do I find organizations that are elevating humanity? I can find lots of examples that organizations that, or even governments that are actually not elevating humanity, right? But I'm looking for examples that I can shine a light on. That's the whole mission of this. I'm looking, there's Whole Health Institute. There's conscious capitalism. There's the American, there's the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine, and there's Modern Elder Academy, and I'm just looking for examples. And there's Exchange. I mean, Exchange is a massive part of this. And I'm just shining a light on all these organizations. And now it's your turn, because, I want you to talk about EO. Let us talk about EO. And let's just start out by, before we get into the structure of EO, let's talk about EO values. I want you to know because values elevate. Values are either at the level of, values either cultivate psychological safety, or they cultivate community, or values allow you to, and your mission statement is the full expression of what is the significance of who we want to be or living into. So from that lens, can you talk into the values of EO?
Yeah. So EO has been around for now almost 30 years.
Right.
And EO is the entrepreneur organization, and it's a peer-to-peer movement whereby entrepreneurs from more than 60 countries participate in a community of entrepreneurs, where our vision is to build the world's most influential community of entrepreneurs, meaning that we want to have an influence for good and to be able to take the gift that we have as entrepreneurs, and not just to enrich ourselves, but to make sure that we take that gift and be able to help communities, whether it's marginalized communities or others, to be a better version of themselves, to live to their best potential. And when we met, Daniel, many of the values that we have in EO, I resonate those values with what you talked about and all the various movements and communities that you're involved in. So our core values, one of the big part of our core value is to have a thirst for learning, which means that we want to be living a conscious life, a life by design, whereby as we go through life and immerse in life, we are able to be so aware. You use the word conscious leadership, and I totally get that. It's about to be so aware of our surrounding, aware of ourselves, self-awareness, as well as system awareness of people around us, so that we are able to live a life by choices, to live a life that is very purpose-driven. And part of the organization within EO, the Leadership Academy, which you have met Warren Rustin, somebody I have amazing respect. And he's the Dean of our Leadership Academy, somebody I've learned a lot from and I work with, and I had the pleasure of co-facilitating the Academy with. So the Leadership Academy is about what are the acceptable ways to lead in our organization that would model the values that we, instead of teaching, we want to create a culture of learning whereby people that we touch are empowered to take responsibility for their own learning and their own growth. So teaching is about delivery of content, but what we want to do is to the notion of formation, that on top of content and a sound methodology, we want to be very aware of the learning in the moment that is happening real time. Like in Hawaii, there were a lot of content and methodology, but the activities where you took us out to the ocean, in that moment of risk and fear for those who don't swim so well, there are a lot of learning opportunities. So EO is about that, where we learn from fellow entrepreneurs. We teach entrepreneurs teaching entrepreneurs.
Keep that. I want you to continue with the flow of the momentum, but I'm actually called in the moment. There are two aspects of that. So when you talk about that active learning moment, just to paint the picture, is that we actually did an exchange-related process, and you've seen me do these exchange-related processes. But there were 35 leaders that paddled out, paddled out into the surf. Everybody was on paddle boards, and we got into groups. And the questions that we asked, as we did talk about real-time learning, because it was like you're going through the waves, we asked 3 questions. Where else in your life have you felt like you were paddling out in choppy water and somehow you magically broke through? And then the next question was, what does that reveal to you about the strengths that you currently have? And then there was a question about what's your highest hopes for the future? And so we actually we paddled out, and they had the experience, and I'll never forget the moment they had the experience. First of all, I thought it was going to be chaos. I didn't know that if you could make that work in the bay that we were in, because there was some choppy water over there.
Right.
And then what happened to the real-time learning, there were, I think, 35 of us, so we had groups of 7. And what I noticed in real-time learning, and I couldn't have anticipated, it was choppy water. And then they were all holding each other's paddles. And as they were talking about this, they became more stable by sharing their strengths as they were holding each other's paddles, so they were buffeted by the waves. It was such a glorious thing. Yeah. It was like, that was the essence of real-time learning. So they had this, and the environment conspired to actually give that meta learning. And then we got into a big group. We assembled a paddle, a very large, and oftentimes when you get into a big paddle circle in surfing, and I'm imagining that even when I pass on, people might do a paddle circle for me, in the water, and you're actually remembering any elements of the lives. But instead of actually, speaking in testimony to what was, what's past, what they were doing, everybody was calling out their superpower. They were going, that was glorious. So it was almost like you were in a baptism, calling into birth and awakening of your strengths that give you your deepest source of resiliency. So that was the most glorious.
And you facilitated that in such an excellent manner, Daniel. Yeah. And I think that learning by doing is a very big part of the EO experience, right? Yeah. You can tell people about the idea of coming together, holding each other, and having the circle, but it's nothing like doing it yourself. Yeah. And going through the experience, the experiential learning, which is part of the cornerstone of EO. And I felt that was a very powerful moment for many of us. And you asked me to elaborate more about EO. That is the uniqueness about EO, that although we have an organization that organizes things, but the power of EO is the community. And community do not need to be over-organized. So when we have moments of learning like this, the community take care of itself, and the community decide what is best for itself. So we are a community of entrepreneurs.
Can you mention how, was I right? Was it the ballpark was about 14,000 right now and growing?
So we have 14,000 members globally. We are in 60 countries, and we are a global, our model is very unique. We are a global organization, but we deliver our services through chapters. So we are in 200 cities. And so we believe in global in terms of a high level guidelines, but we believe in local freedom. That entrepreneurs in Spain are very different from entrepreneurs in Nepal versus entrepreneurs in Shanghai or even in Malaysia. And therefore, you cannot organize them, but to provide guidelines and best practices and trust that entrepreneurs know how to organize themselves within those communities to do what's best for that community. So that is a very important core of EO for the last 35 years, right? We are a community of entrepreneurs. And the Leadership Academy that you attended with us, Daniel, was for us to select global leaders from around the world and bring them together in groups of 28 to 34 so that we can have 4 days of immersion learning. 4 days whereby the condition is that when you sign up on the Leadership Academy, you literally surrender yourself to the academy for 4 or 5 days. And we will put you through a program that is very, very focused on intentional learning. And you actually learn by doing the things that we instruct you. So people will wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and we'll meet until midnight. And for 4 days, although everybody complains it's very tiring, but they just love it because they are out of their comfort zone and they are learning just from the community itself. Right?
What I thought, there were morning activities and Warren offers can you share a bit more about the 10-10-10 ritual? This is many, and I would say there's a very large community within EO that's working, that this is the way they wake up in the morning. So I just want you to think about the power of this. And actually, because I'm mindful that there are many people listening right now. And so I want you, as you listen to this, reflect, we're talking about active learning cycles, reflect on how this might inform your first 30 minutes of your day waking up.
Daniel, I just initial call to talk about you, and now you end up talking about EO, and I really appreciate what you're doing for us. And I think that as we continue to at a certain point we have to switch it back to talking about you.
Well, but let me tell you what's really funny. What we're modeling right now is real-time learning. There are things that are coming up in real time for us that is serving our learning, but it's also serving your learning. So if we I'm in no rush to get back to me. So 10-10-10. Okay.
Well, the premise is that successful individuals are very intentional and they prepare themselves for greatness every day. And how you wake up and what you do first thing in the morning is very, very critical in terms of how you prepare yourself for success for the day. So a routine that we do at the Leadership Academy when we started is something that Warren taught, called the 10-10-10, whereby at 6 o'clock in the morning when we wake up, the first 1 minute that you wake up and you sit at the edge of your bed, do nothing else, and you just sit at the edge of your bed and you ask yourself one very, very important question. Why am I alive today? Or what is my purpose today? And the intention is to start the day with intention or focus that what is my purpose today? And then we go through a routine called 10-10-10, where we first spend the first 10 minutes just thinking about gratitude, just thinking about what has happened recently that I can recall that make me appreciate how blessed I am, the people I'm very, very grateful to, the opportunities that I'm grateful for. And the first 10 minutes of gratitude, because we believe that gratefulness is a very powerful emotion. After the first 10 minutes of gratitude and positiveness, we would encourage our participants to read something positive. So we actually give them a couple of books, as simple as chicken soup for the soul. And they read 10 minutes of positive thoughts. Okay, and then each of our participants get a journal, and they will journal positive thoughts for another 10 minutes. So 10 minutes of positive thinking, 10 minutes of reading positive articles, and the final 10 minutes of writing down journals, reflecting on what you have read and what you have thought and what meaning it gave to you. So by 6:31 in the morning, you are totally positive. You are clear about the purpose for the day. You are full of gratitude and positive energy. And guess what? When you get ready, you have another 45 minutes of physical exercise and a good breakfast. By 9 o'clock, we are ready for an excellent day. Compared to many others that just do not prepare themselves, they are tired at 9 o'clock, they haven't thought about anything, they just walk slowly to their office, they are not ready to have an excellent day. So that is the routine that we built, and over time, that become part and parcel of our routine.
So George, as you described this morning ritual, I'm imagining how this world would be different if 7 billion people on the planet started their day this way. Can you imagine?
It'd be so amazing.
Yes.
There'll be so much good coming out of that. So that is how we start the 10-10-10. And of course, there are many other awareness, self-discovery, and self-mastery that we take the organization or the members through. So that is basically the Leadership Academy. And Daniel, when we had our calls, I can't remember, maybe since February, about 5 or 6 calls, the intention was that part of my own personal learning is that how can I take some of your awareness, some of your consciousness, some of the genius that you have to continue to make our program current and relevant. Part of the active learning cycle that you talked about, that I wanted to take some sharing ideas from you and incorporate that into the way we do things in EO. Yeah, exactly, the active learning cycle.
Yeah, so here it is. And I've shared this in a number of videos already, but I think in what you've shared, because you shared something about purpose, this is a beautiful integration in real-time learning of how we can actually thread this all together in service of you listening over here. So what the active learning cycle gets at, and part of what's powerful over here is a lot of programs expose you to content or even experiences. You could have rich experience, but content or experience alone doesn't create change. It's actually the reflection. It's the reflection of that content or experience that leads to insightful action, that then leads to new experiences. And then this is not a closed loop. It's actually, if you tilt it on its side, it's a spiral of experience, reflection, learning, experience, reflection, learning, experience, reflection, learning. And so we're in an upward spiral of growth. So just coming back to the 10-10-10. When you declare, what is my purpose for the day? What's powerful about that is you're creating a frame, because the content experiences that you could have in your day are infinite. So what it does is the purpose starting out your day, it becomes, what types of content and experiences do I want to expose myself to today? So it's creating that question itself is curating. So you might read, you might be sitting at the edge of your bed and, say today, I want to learn how to become more resilient because I'm actually struggling through adversity. And that's very common through the time of COVID, You might get up there and you might go to your bookshelf and you might pull out a book that actually says, well, what is the book on my shelf that's going to help me be most resilient? Right. Or if you wake up in your moment and you actually engage in the very important question at this time of awakened systemic racism, how could I be a force for healing today with systemic racism? So, and if you're a white person of privilege, you might say, how can I do the work today to actually learn more deeply into my implicit bias? And so you might actually go there and you might actually pull out the book, White Fragility. So it's very targeted, the content you reach for. So it's not, you anchor that first minute that then sets into the next step, the 10 minutes of gratitude, then leads into a very intentional reading that's related to the purpose. And then the journaling is the reflection piece. So now you have the 10 minutes of journaling, and there's an attitude and questions of journaling. The attitude is with journaling, allowing yourself to, certainly you're holding the pen, so there's an act of ownership in that. But you're journaling from a place of openness, kindness, curiosity, and you're on purpose. You're linked into purpose. And you've got that moment of presence because you're present to your journaling. And so any other distractions, no, I'm coming back to my journaling. I'm coming back to my journaling. So you're in that moment, and I'm just thinking about, some of the questions from the exchange, which starts out with what is my purpose for the day. I mean, there are questions you might end the question, what does this inspire me to do? What is it I'm here to learn? And what does that inspire me to do that leads you into action? So you end, what I would say is, if you go into a rich reflection in your journal, I would always add like a little small appendage, action. Like, well, what does this actually inspire me to do right now? And what do I want to do in the next hour? What do I want to do with what I want to do today? What I want to do in, the next week? Like you begin to actually kind of thread into, because it's actually the activities, the action that's going to lead to new experiences.
Absolutely. So, and then you just to add to the active learning cycle here, what we found, or what I found, is that when you learn as a group, you learn better than when you learn alone. Part of the community is that having the experience and having the reflection, and at the reflection piece, I found the power of silence. The power of silence, to be alone with yourself, to reflect, and to be able to have silence, is a very, very powerful portion of reflection. And the action bit is that when we are in a community, in EO we call it a forum, we find the courage to take action. We find the discipline to take action. And we find the accountability partners in the community to go through with our action. So taking action in a community, whichever group you belong to, is very important, because very often it's not that we do not know what we want to do, it's just that we don't do it. And we don't do it because we don't have that accountability buddy, we don't have the courage, we are afraid of failure, or we just don't have the discipline to do it. So that grouping of being part of an organization like EO allow us to have a structure that would be able to support action of the individual to be a better version of ourselves.
So I love the way you bring in the social dimensions, because there's a private dimension of reflection. There's a private dimension of reflection, and even a private dimension of commitment to action. But when you bring that into the social context, our ability to reflect in community, and that's the power of it. What exchange does. You get into groups of 3, you get into large groups, and you reflect together, because then we begin to spark on each other, and we begin to make connections far beyond what each of us could make alone. So we begin to actually have a richer learning. And then what you're saying about actually being in a community in action and the accountability of that, but it's not only that, it's about communal, what people talk about, communal capital. So, and what I think about, this is part of what comes out of exchange, is that there's intellectual capital, there's social capital, but then there's communal capital, which is how can we gather together and change the world? And I'm thinking about how many, during the time of COVID, and I was part of, I'm part of the chat group on, I've been very blessed to be welcomed into that WhatsApp group. And in Philippines, there were stories coming about how they were serving their community, how the chapters were serving their community. And so you leveraging the entrepreneurial spirit in times of adversity to actually say, let's be entrepreneurial about how we can serve our community.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a very, very big part, Daniel, you asked about EO. EO globally, we are very, very large in the ability for us to serve communities and to have impact beyond our chapters and to find a purpose bigger than ourselves. And EO members across the globe does that exceedingly well.
Yeah.
And many of them do take on initiative that we don't even know about it. We discover it by chance along the way. But the fact that people are doing it on their own means the success of EO, that we are able to empower entrepreneurs to do the right thing. Yeah. Versus organizing them with structured programs. Yeah. I think the success of EO is that people are empowered to take responsibility to do the right thing. Okay. And that's the reason why hundreds of projects like these, things that, Daniel, many of the things that you do, when I hear that, I get inspired. And I share what I learned from you with 10 other EO members. And they continue to multiply. And I'm just part of the catalyst along the way, right?
So I said the transition coming that you want to pivot back to me, and I will be happy to serve in that. But before we pivot in that, okay, here's what I want to do. When we talk about action, I'm in a moment where there's a call to action. And here's the call to action. If you are an entrepreneur listening to this anywhere in the world, and you've been inspired by what you're hearing George share, I'm going to put links. We're going to put links down to entrepreneur organization. I want you to look for a local chapter that you can join. So if you're inspired by this, join EO. If you're an entrepreneur, join EO. So let that be set. I'm hoping that was a strong enough invitation, because bless your life by becoming part of a community that blesses the lives of others.
Well, Daniel, that is, I get a bit embarrassed to be promoting EO in that manner, but because I truly believe that EO is an organization for good, and there is no shame in promoting something that's good.
Not only but I want to flip that around. I want to actually kind of take that, because a lot of people actually, when they come to promotion, here's how I'd calibrate that. If you are doing bad in the world, then you should be ashamed by promoting yourself. That's appropriate. But when you're doing good in the world, you should sing it from the rooftops, because it's not about you. So George, there's no shame in us actually kind of making a call to action, because you're doing good in the world for the benefit of others.
Thank you. And I agree with you. There are good pride and bad pride, and we do have good pride in the things that we do. And I think, if you know the EO stories, you know how many thousands and thousands of people are impacted by EO. And this organization continue to transform the world in a way that beyond our understanding.
Well, the other thing I'm going to say is, here's what I'm going to say. Don't join EO if it's not a fit for you. I want you to first go onto the EO website, and I want you to look at their values. And if you can't align with those values, don't join. And here's why. Because I'm also mindful that this may create a flood of applicants for you. All right. And just to actually take a shortcut, I want to help you actually create a filter. And that is, first go to the website and look at the EO values, because ultimately EO is not really looking for people to just show up. It's not about numbers. They want the right people to show up. So that if you enroll yourself in EO, I'm thinking about all of the chapters that will be blessed by you showing up because you're already aligned to the values.
Right.
And you will not only be blessed by them, but you will be welcomed in a community that will feel blessed by you. And that's how we actually create this richness.
Right.
It's ultimately understanding the rightness of fit, because I don't believe you have a financial need where you've got to drive numbers like a lot of organizations. It needs to be the right fit. So only please apply if you're inspired and you feel you're a good fit.
Well, we welcome entrepreneurs. Membership in EO is by invitation, but we welcome fellow entrepreneurs to join us in our mission.
Can you just maybe I've overstepped my bounds, because I don't know what your enrollment process is.
No problem,
Can you
Daniel.
just share a little bit more about the enrollment process? So if people look at the website, how would they go about enrolling?
Well, we have a website, eonetwork.org.
Okay.
And there's an opportunity for you to be curious and say, hey, what can I do to be part of this organization? And you can apply, and there's a process that we review. And depending on which country you're from, that application is now qualified and sent to the local chapter. And we trust the local chapter to make the right choice for their recruitment. But basically, there are three conditions. Number one, you need to be an entrepreneur. Membership is on the individual and not the company. So it's the entrepreneur. Your business has to have a revenue of at least $1 million US. And it was designed that way because we want the diversity of our membership. The second thing is that you must be the founder, co-founder, or the main partner of the organization or the company. And the rest is really, you learn along the way in terms of our values and the kind of things that we do as an organization. So it's very simple. It's intentionally kept to be simple because we are not about exclusiveness. We are about inclusiveness. Our mission is to engage leading entrepreneurs to learn and grow. So in order for me to honor the mission of this organization, we embrace entrepreneurs of every country, every corner of the globe to join EO. We have an amazing structure of leadership. We have a global board that is working very, very hard to continue to extend our organization. But EO is, you don't have to have a title to be a leader in EO because we are a community of entrepreneurs. And our leadership in EO, in a structured way is done to allow us to operate the organization. But ultimately, EO members, people like, at RLA, many of them just show up and they just take leadership role because they think that's the right thing to do. And that's a big part of the EO culture as well. Yeah. But Daniel, I really appreciate the opportunity today to just spend some time with you and to have a moment of learning or learning in the moment. Well, and as and I'm so grateful for what you're doing right now.
Well, I would like to give you a couple of other gifts, if I may. I want to gift you a curriculum that is free to use, because I know a big part of what you have been contemplating was almost like and I don't know where you are in the cycle of that, but it's almost like, what would an MBA program look like for creating a learning community? Because you have such incredible rich learning. How do you bring all your learning together? And you can think about this as being kind of like, an inner or a leading well from within MBA, in EO terms. I mean, I'm thinking through integrating, what is that curriculum? So what I want, whenever, as you're actually further developing the curriculum, and we've had discussions about what that could look like, I want to gift you this free curriculum, because what I'm going through in my brain, when I'm looking over here at going back to the active learning cycle, I'm having an experience of brain cancer. But I'm reflecting right now. I'm going into deep reflection. And the questions I'm asking in my reflection is, what matters most now? And what's coming out of that reflection is make every moment count. And what comes from that in my reflection is live intensely loving relationships. So this is a moment that counts. And so my actions are embodying that, make every moment count. And then there's this other piece, which is wanting to leave a legacy with my work and wanting to leave the highest expression of my legacy with my work. And now I'm taking a bunch of actions in that stream as well. I'm taking actions. And so what I want to gift to you and the entire entrepreneurial community and the global community is our family has used this opportunity right now to launch this YouTube channel. It's a free curriculum. In the last 3 weeks, this channel has about 90 videos. So the amount of content, and it's actually, my wife is Sue. My sons are Zach and Dylan. And we have walked through this door and we're sharing our learning experiences for the benefits of other family. There's a part of this where it's about my, I'm cataloging my cancer journey, actually for the benefit of other cancer patients. So I want to shine a light and provide hope for other patients, whatever disease process they may be suffering through, to actually provide, from just on my being a doctor and internist, and I've written one of the first textbooks in evidence-based medicine. I have a window to the world of conventional medicine, understanding I'm getting world-class care there. And then I've got this other area where, as the founding chair of the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine. So I've got the world of integrative holistic medicine, and I've got a dream team in both worlds. And so there's a part of this documentary, and then I'm going through an awakening, kind of a spiritual awakening in my own growth. And so there's this kaleidoscope where I just want to provide through my journey. I want to provide for other patients, whatever disease process they may have, a sense of hope and possibility as you're navigating your journey. So there's that big arc of the story. But a big part of the story is I just want to shine a light on other organizations like yours, like EO, like Whole Health Institute, like Conscious Capitalism, like Exchange, that are doing this great work of elevation. So we elevate together. And so the channel is called Living Well From Within. And the reason why it's called Living Well From Within is it's based on, on my book, which is really kind of me through my active learning cycles. I'm going through an active learning cycle, literally living into my work, living into the full flourishing of my work through these active learning cycles. And the greatest gift that I have is my brain cancer. My brain cancer is catalyzing my learning in ways I could never imagine. It's way beyond the gifts, way beyond whatever I could have hoped for, because what this is making possible. And I think when we were on the phone, in real-time learning, I was having insight, because we talk about, awakening, and what does it mean to awaken? And certainly, I've been aspiring to awaken. What does it mean to fully awaken all my life? And there's myths of that, but in this moment, I know it has 3 critical dimensions. So, the first critical dimension, I thought, it's about conscious leadership, and conscious leadership, is incredibly really valuable, but there's a certain kind of there's also a certain kind of wisdom, almost like a headiness about it. And it's very important that you have to have, kind of like awareness from here. You have to have awareness, and that's critical dimension. But that alone is insufficient. And now, I'm dropped into, when I said in my learning, I want to live intensely loving relationship. It broke my heart open. It broke my heart open. And then I realized, the power of conscious leadership is when it's connected to an awakened heart. And then I actually saw something else. I saw that when people were learning that I had brain cancer, they were heartbroken. They were heartbroken. And I actually understood the opportunity in being heartbroken, because it's a breaking open of your heart. And it provides a whole nother opportunity for engagement. So if I were just to come have come to with all these great ideas of wanting to start this YouTube channel without the cancer, people would have said, well, that sounds like a good idea, but they wouldn't have invested as deeply because they wouldn't have had an emotional investment in it. People are coming in because they're emotional. And so what, first of all, I want to just, there are multiple, experiences that I'm having with that compassion that's coming my way. So first of all, I want to let everybody know I deeply appreciate your compassion. I deeply appreciate, and I drink that in as good medicine because, our academy says love is the greatest healer of all. I take that in as good medicine. And that's great for my, that I really value that. But actually what I more prefer is this awakening of compassion. Because if you're feeling compassionate for me, and just be aware that what you're feeling is just simply awakened compassion. You're feeling your heart broken open, your heart broken, heart's broken open. So what I would rather wish for you is that you save a larger measure of that awakened compassion. I will be happy to take 10%, but I want you to use that other 90%. First of all, a big part of that for radiating that into yourself as self-compassion, to actually engage your inner healing that will help you soothe the stress and self-doubt that you carry in life to allow you to actually manifest your glory more fully. So allow yourself to actually bring that self-compassion into your life as a soothing balm for your ability to do glorious work in the world. And then as you awaken that part of begin to radiate that love outwards, that love and compassion out. First for your families, then for your communities, whether that be at work or in your broader communities, and then the world at large. So that's the power of that. And then, as we're actually all gathering here together, there's a certain level of motivation that actually allows things to coalesce. And I'm going to get to that later. But I want to talk about the third dimension, because we're not done yet. There's mind, awareness from the mind, the awakened heart. But the third dimension is profound, and then it wraps it all together. The third dimension is a full spiritual surrender. This is not about me. I am very aware, I am intensely aware that what is flowing through me is a cosmic script. I am in service of the divine, and to the point where I really appreciate that my cancer diagnosis, my terminal cancer diagnosis, actually has been called for to unlock all the possibilities of this movement. So I'm in full surrender to the grace of God, and again, however you actually speak about your connection with your deeper source of inspiration, whether you use the word God or you use the field or you use the mystery, or it's something just connecting with some vague sense that you're connected with something larger than yourself, or if you just think that, these are values, whatever that is for you, being far more attuned and connected to you than ever before, and allowing yourself to be guided by that dimension. Interestingly enough, just as an anecdote, when I asked my wife, Sue, if she believes in God, she said, no. I said, well, do you believe in something bigger than yourself? She said, well, yeah, I think there's something bigger out there. I said, well, what would you call that? And so Sue said, well, I guess I'd call that the Force. So she was thinking about the movie Star Wars. I think that's the Force. I've been calling it the field. So we got together and said, well, why didn't we call it the force field? Why didn't we call it the force field? And Mary looked at it and we said, oh, well, that sounds like that sounds like a Marvel super character. And then we said, well, that gives us miraculous superpowers. So we then say, oh, okay, it's the force field giving birth to the possibility of miracles. So we're in the force field of miracles. And actually our biggest miracles are our sons, Zach and Dylan, first and foremost. But in this miraculous unfolding, at this crucial time, where we need healing on all levels in society more than at any other time. Well, I mean, lots of other times there's rises and falls of civilizations, but this is a particular moment, historic moment in time, with COVID, awakened systemic racism, intense political polarization across the globe, discrimination of all kinds, that we need a miracle for healing, growth, to engage in flourishing wellness throughout the globe. And I just sense that there's something happening where we can actually make this happen together. So I want to get to that part of the story. But I'm going to come to that part of the story. But first I want to just share this gift, which is the curriculum. So the channel is Living Well from Within. So what I'm going to do as a call to action, I'm going to invite the entire entrepreneurs organization. You taught me this, George, because I was watching how you were doing it. I had no idea that there was a red button. When you click on this page, there's a red button over here. First thing to do, click the subscribe button. 2 reasons. One reason is that this is an unfolding playlist. You can think of it as this playlist. It's a Netflix series. So let this be your favorite new Netflix series that you can binge watch from beginning to end, to just watch how this is all unfolding. It's fascinating. But beyond the entertainment value, what you're getting are the real life lessons, that we're learning as a family, but many people are coming in like this is a million people need to watch this video over here right now between George and I. Why? And if you're in the entrepreneur, because they need to know the extraordinary work that you're doing in EO. So if we get this to be a subscriber base of 1 million people, you elevating this channel, essentially what you're doing is you're elevating yourself. So it's a virtuous cycle. So click the red button over here, subscribe. So you get to be a part of elevating this movement, and it's beyond just yourself. It's elevating others that are doing great work as well. I want to elevate others with this channel, and I want to have a very significant capacity to do so through a large list of, a large subscriber base. Now, again, I want you to only to subscribe if you feel aligned to this, because I don't want just numbers. I want, same way that you have a selection process, enroll yourself in. If this speaks to you, if you're inspired by this, click the subscribe button on that condition. And then I invite you to let this unfold. And this is a curriculum. And this begins the curriculum. And the playlist is titled A Journey to Inspire Healing, Growth, and Flourishing Wellness in Life. Flourishing wellness in you, your families, both at home and at work, in your communities and the world at large. So if that inspires you, if that calls to your heart, to your spirit, to your mind, then click the subscribe button, okay? And then as you go through and binge watch, this is a Netflix series, and I actually hope that Netflix might pick this up as a real series. So there's a plug to Netflix. So the first video. Here.
I love you.
I'm going to pause that over here because, well, actually, I don't like to pause that because look at me, I'm looking, when I close my eyes, I'll just look, I've got to find it. Oh, that's better. So I was thinking that when my eyes were closed, I was looking half dead, and I was just wanting to look, convey the essence of love that I was trying to communicate. So as you go down here, every one of these, I'm working with Amanda Rooker right now. Amanda Rooker, she was the editor of this book, my book, Leading Well from Within. Extraordinary editor with just such, she's also been through the exchange process. She's in the exchange community. So she has incredible facility with the active learning cycle. So what we're doing is we're building active learning cycles into wherever these videos can serve. Some of these are documentary videos documenting my medical. So I'm not sure that we're going to find active, but maybe you will. Maybe you will find like an active learning cycle. What are you noticing about the compassionate care that's delivered over here? So every one of these are going to have this active learning cycle, because I don't want you to just watch this. I want you to activate into an active learning cycle around each of these videos so that you can go through a personal transformation. So if you look again, experience, reflection, action, and then I want you to come back and look at the descriptions below the videos. So as we look at the description, so the first part of the description will be a distillation of, okay, what is the, I've had an experience, but what's the context? You know, we're just doing a encapsulation of the experience. So here it is. The context of this video is this video was recorded after Danny received the news that his most likely diagnosis was a high-grade glioblastoma. So I've got glioblastoma, grade 4, the most aggressive form of brain cancer. And on average, you know, my lifespan from today should be 15 months on average. Now, I intend not to be average, and I hope to inspire other cancer patients along this journey to actually prove my exception to the rule, and hopefully that will give you hope. But went on, since it was also before the brain biopsy, Sue, Danny's wife, asked him to fill the video where he could share a message with his boys, just in case something bad happened, like a stroke, like a bleed, like I lost my function in the biopsy itself. So I was in a critical time period it wasn't only that I had my cancer, but it was just before having this brain biopsy, which made the moment count, make every moment count. So I filmed this, you know, I'm really in the raw, what you're watching over here is you're watching me in the rawness of the diagnosis. This is within 24 hours of my world being turned upside down. Just in the first 24 hours of my world being turned upside down. So I'm raw and I'm tender, and I'm doing my best to process all through all of this, and I'm actually making shifts. And so what I found coming out of my mouth that I most wanted to share with my boys, who I love more than anything else in the world. Will caveat, I love Sue and the boys more than, my boys Zach and Dylan, more than anything else in the world. Well, now I have to make another caveat. I love life. I'm going to have to make a lot of caveats as I say that, because the sense of abundant love is actually so expansive. So the message that I wanted to share with them was my deepest wish for them to live a loving life. To live a loving life and to unpack, and I unpacked that for them. I said, well, I want you to love. First of all, I want you to love yourself deeply. Love yourself deeply. And then I want you to lead into loving each and every relationship, each moment of time. Love every relationship. Love the planet. So take care of the planet. For God's sake, let us do things that are good for the planet. And then love life itself. Love whatever is this force field of miracles. Love this loving conscious energy of God itself, because that comes back at you over and over again. So now you can understand like why I had a difficult time actually I needed to expand, you know, what I mean about that, you know, that I love them more than anything else. And I'm not sure, because I live a loving life itself. I live a loving and multiple dimensions. And you know what? We don't have to pick and choose. It's not loving one thing more than another. We can love it all. Let it be an integration where you just simply love everything to its fullest. It's like, it doesn't have to be, I've got a 50% love over here, I've got 50% love over here. Just be in 100% love. There's no competition. So it's an abundance of love. We don't have to. So the reflection for you. So I want you to imagine now you're looking at the video. You are listening to this video. So I want you to invite you to reflect. If you were given a life-threatening diagnosis, or you knew you had a very short time to live. Maybe that today was your last day. Who would you reach out to? Who would you reach out to? What message would you share? And then, why wait? Why wait? Why not today? And from that, we move from that reflection into action. What actions do these answers inspire you to take now? So if you want, I'm going to encourage you to pause the video at this moment and just journal on that. And then take action. And actually, maybe even before you actually continue on this, but if you're compelled to take action in the next 5 minutes, do that before you actually start the video again. Don't let this video inhibit that action, because that action is more important than anything in your life right now.